Hello and welcome back to another episode of Coast Football Weekly. Today we're joined by both head coaches of Umina's NPL and WPL teams. First on the pod, fresh off promotion and coming off his first victory in NPL this past weekend. Welcome to the pod, Pete Graham.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
How would you sum up your start to the season?
Competitive. We've been competitive. I think, if you ask me sort of leading into the season, the jump from Div 1 to Premier League and how we'd be feeling after two rounds, I think we've sort of got our answers in our two games. We've been competitive in both. We've got one win out of the two, and we're pretty happy with that, despite probably not playing at our most fluent best from last year, that's for sure. So I'm excited and happy with so far, how we've gone so far, with a lot of work to be done.
Now you started the year with a loss, but you were able to overcome that and turn that around with a win in round two. How important was that to bounce back?
I think it's important to bounce back anytime. I think in terms of, for us, probably at home, first game in Premier League in 6 or whatever seasons, to lose in front of our home fans probably put a bit of a doubt of whether we can match it with the Premier League clubs. I think bouncing back the week after and winning our first game for the year, I think is an important step. I think also just the level of football we needed to play in the first round was shown in the loss. And we had to make amends for that in the week of training as well. So I think it's important for the players to see that effort in training being picked up with 3 points as well. So I think it's been a good start. I think it was important to get our points on the board, right? Don't want to be too far behind leading into the second half of the season, that's for sure.
And looking back on that game against Kanwal where you went down 2-1, what was the main differences between that and then this weekend, obviously the victory? Was it just the effort or was it?
No, I couldn't ask more from the players from the first round. I think execution of our play was probably the biggest improver. I think we focused really heavily on how we moved the ball and just our sort of shape on the field, I think was improved. So I think it was an eye-opener to lose sort of the first game in essentially a couple of years almost, it felt like. So the biggest improvement, I think, was just execution of play rather than anything else. The effort, the intensity the boys showed in the first game was outstanding, and it showed again yesterday with the win. But definitely accuracy of our passing and play was much improved.
Now, speaking more about last year, obviously 2025 was a great year for Umina. 21 wins from 21 games, undefeated, invincibles. When you look back at that, what was so special about that year?
So it was my first year as first grade coach as well. So I felt like I had the team already there in place to succeed and to get promoted, which was our goal at the start of the season. Obviously the outstanding Chris Payne and Hayden Tucker entering our squad as well made it so much more special and so much more sort of dynamic. Those two particular players adding to a very, very strong squad was that made a massive difference, not just getting promoted, but also essentially that professional attitude to each game, and that showed in some of the wins, some of the comeback wins, some of the dominant wins, was down to the exciting squad I had already at my disposal, but then the improved squad of such dynamic players like Chris and Hayden. What was beautiful about it, I think, was the level of the amount of players that came from the Umina area, the Umina junior system, including Chris himself, coming to the club or being at the club already. I think it showed in the weekends games every time, the passion we showed to keep the 3 points going. And I think once we started to win and come back from any position, I think the confidence was there to say, why not? Why can't we win every single week?
Yeah.
And then, of course, it got a bit of ego involved once we got to 15 or 16 wins and we'd sort of sewn up the title already and promotion. We thought, why not do something no one else has done? Probably in forever maybe, but certainly in 50-odd years of football where we win every game of the season.
And what did promotion mean to you and also the club?
I think promotion sort of cemented, from the club's point of view, definitely. It felt like it's where we belong. We've had some exciting legacy times and dynasty times in the club. In the recent sort of past, the sort of 2000s and other times of since 1979 when the club was built. So I think it's back to where we belong in a way from the club's point of view. I think that's, it's our job this year in 2026 to maintain that, of course. But I think, back where we belong is probably the overarching sentiment from the club. For me personally, I think, it's a combination. I've been at the club, 5 or so years, and I've come up through the 18s and reserve grade and won some league titles in that. So I think for me, I'm just extremely proud of the playing group, proud of the support base I had. Management and the club management was outstanding, and I couldn't have asked for more support from them throughout the whole year. But just it's wonderful to work with such great players and great guys. They're fantastic young men who I thoroughly enjoy talking to and working with every day. And they're probably sick of my voice, but I've built up a strong relationship with many of them, just about all of them, and I couldn't be more proud of their achievements so far. And my job is to support them and give them the best chance of winning every game they step onto the field for.
Now, most coaches don't coach for individual accolades, but last year did get you Coach of the Year in Division 1, voted on by your peers, the other coaches. How did you receive that award?
Oh, I think it was a bit of validation for the season our club had and the first grade group it had. These coaching awards are always, fantastic to receive from an individual point of view, but they're also, it's a team, it's a squad, it's a club atmosphere sort of thing where my manager and reserve grade coaching staff and all of the players, they share a massive hand in that kind of, because without the players winning games, I wouldn't even get a look in probably, and that sort of thing too. So I think it's a shared, I take it as absolutely a shared win for the club. It's personally, I'm very proud of the achievement, but overarching, it's definitely about the players. We win the competition, the coach gets the award, and that's a kind of stock standard in trade, really. Winning 21 games, it would be a bit of a funny thing if someone else had got it, I suppose. But in saying that, there are fantastic coaches right throughout the Central Coast Football Leagues doing the job that they're supposed to do, whether that's win titles, competing games, build on the youth of their club. And I think everyone that I've spoken to has got my respect, that's for sure.
And now another individual accolade was Chris Payne winning Player of the Year. What's it like having a player like Chris Payne within the squad?
Look, he's amazing, and I don't know how many people know him on the coast. It seems like everyone knows him, and that's fair enough. But he's just a simply amazing fella off the pitch as well. Like he's a wonderful guy to get to know. I met him, for the first time properly, probably December or so of 2024, leading into our 2025 season, and instantly built a strong rapport with him and a deep respect for him. What he's achieved from Umina's point of view, from being a junior at the club through his first years to playing for the A-League clubs, playing overseas and representing Umina throughout that time as a coach, as a guy who comes back to the presentations and the support man for the academy and things. He's just a wonderful club guy. Always has been, always will be a Umina boy.
In the part of the club and everything.
Yeah, he's got his 4 boys and his wife now playing this year. So yeah, the whole family, the whole Payne family and his brothers and father, and that was so prominent in his in his development as well at the football club. But just a wonderful guy and an amazing football player. I always say he's the smartest man on the pitch. And he coaches the side on the field sometimes, or quite often really. He understands where players should be and how they can impact the game in a different way. And having a guy like that, the smartest man on the field, why wouldn't you listen to him?
That's right.
I do my thing to support him. He does his thing to support me. And I think we've built a really strong relationship on the pitch and off the pitch together as well.
Now, Hayden Tucker was also in the running for that award. I believe last year was his first year. Did he come from Sydney?
Yeah, so he had a year off in 2024.
Okay.
But yeah, essentially moved to the area. He lives at Umina, not far from our field. And it was serendipitous, to say the least, where our one of our committee members worked with him and noticed he was wearing, I think, either a baseball cap or a jacket that had a football club on it from Sydney down in the Manly area, in the sort of northern suburbs area of Sydney, and said, I represent a club. Would you like to go and have a run? And he came down and mesmerised us instantly. Again, like Chris, incredibly intelligent football player, an amazing talent, and probably the fittest guy on any pitch he's ever going to walk on as well. So to get those guys walk through the door at the same time, for me, in my first year as first grade coach, I couldn't be blessed any more than that. 2 wonderful fellas who are just phenomenal footballers.
Where did your sort of coaching journey start?
30 years ago or thereabouts, when I was sort of teenager, I started coaching. I got injured a few times playing, and I started coaching in my Sydney clubs because I grew up in Sydney.
Yep.
So Parramatta Eagles and places like that. So I started doing a few things there and just fell in love with it. And as the injuries got more and more, I took it more seriously and more than just a coaching sort of job each time. It was a passion. It is a passion for me, football, and an obsession, I would say, my family would say. And so, I coach because I love it. I coach because I love the game. I love working with the players. I love seeing, that light bulb moment in the younger players, particularly coming through. And I'm still waiting for the perfect game. I think I'll retire if I ever got that, and I don't think it's ever going to happen. So I'll keep coaching until there's no jobs left for me.
And speaking as yourself as a player, was it always football that you from a young age?
Like most Australians, I played the old cricket in summer and the football, soccer.
Double duties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So I represented some pretty good leagues in both cricket and football and soccer and stuff in Sydney. My whole career was in Sydney, so that was fantastic to do. And yeah, I just sort of kicked on from there. But I always enjoyed the game. Played since I was under fives. Probably played even younger than that in my older brother's team occasionally when you could do that. So yeah, it was just great fun to do and play the game. And I had some fantastic coaches that kind of gave me ideas and built that rapport with me to start my journey as a coach quite young. Moved to the Central Coast as an older teenager, nearly sort of 20-year-old, and was lucky enough to work with some fantastic clubs on the coast as well. I've been at Umina now 5 years, and couldn't think of being anywhere else. It's fantastic.
Now, speaking more on the NPL this season, has your coaching standpoint changed at all now that obviously going into a competition where you're probably not favourites every week?
No, I don't think so. I think it's probably proven to be more of a thing for the players that sort of the amount of time they need to put in maybe a slightly increased in the level of play we need to produce each week. I think also our squad's improved. Sort of we've brought everyone back basically, but we've sort of had a few younger players come through the 18s and stuff who have increased our squad depth. And some notable other players have come into the club this year as well from other places on the Central Coast. I think from my point of view, I always try and bring a level of professionalism to my coaching, to my training sessions, to my pre-game and post-game information for the players. So I've always done that my entire career. I don't think that's changed. I think the amount of time I've put into it, or had to put into it's probably increased slightly, just with the level of teams we're playing against week in, week out, as you say. So I think more than anything, it's probably, I don't know, just made it more of a challenge for me. I think certainly for the club's point of view, being in the higher leagues, always going to do that, especially early on when you're not quite sure what to expect every week. But we respect everybody. We respected everybody last year. We knew every game had its own challenges last year, even though some of the scorelines suggested otherwise. And this year, it's gone up tenfold. The respect I have for every club, every coach, every player on the Central Coast is there. It's just about not fearing anyone at the same time, and building that balance between deep respect and not fearing the opposition, and going out and being our Umina side is what we want to do.
Has there been any youngsters within the squad that have really stepped up or surprised you in a sense?
It's been a young squad since I've come in. We probably had majority of our squad last year was sort of under 21, under 23 age. To be fair, obviously we've got those experienced players, but I think we've got a wonderful young goalkeeper in Corey, and a second goalkeeper in Levi. Both young, very very talented young keepers with the world in front of them. Will Brett has come back in, and he's a teenager himself, and very very brilliant centre back. He's an absolute gun of a player who's come in, and he's a Umina junior as well, amongst Southern as well with me. I've known him for a long, long time. But he's come back in from sort of the rep scene a little bit in the Newcastle comp, and he's excelled already in his time at Umina, or time back at Umina. And a couple of other young players have come through, have really impressed us so far in the last couple of years, some under-18s players. Billy Hawksley is started his first couple of first-grade games, and is showing really good signs of where his game can get to in the next 5 or even 10 years. So I think we're in good hands in the future. While these experienced players are still playing, and these young guys are coming through the club, it's exciting times, that's for sure.
Got your first 3 points on the board against Arimba, leading 3-0, end up with a 3-2 victory. Do you almost feel like there's a weight lifted off the players' shoulders after just getting that first victory of the year?
Definitely. I think so. I think any team that gets promoted in any league around the world would probably say that the first points are often the most difficult, but at the same time, the most important. especially this early in the season, to say you sort of, maximum 3 points off first or whatever is an important part. I think also just to show that we deserve to be here. We're earning our place in the competition. Nothing's entitled to us. Nothing. We haven't earned anything except to say we deserve to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. I also think, as I said, the first sort of 3 points in 6 or so years, I believe, in the Premier League, I think is definitely a monkey off the back of the players. And it showed in the scoreline, I think. 3-0 up, probably deserved to win that game. I'd say Rimba would probably agree with that. But it shows you can't stop playing in any minute of the 94 or 95 you end up playing. I think it's important to note that. And the players understood that at the end of the game when we discussed that. We did make a note of saying no games gone, no games unwinnable, no games unlosable. You've got to keep pushing for the 95 minutes or so. And Arimba showed us that. They were fought hard. It was a tough game all game. And they dominated in part, and they certainly dominated the last 10 or so minutes. So nervy times at times, but at the same time, we did close the game out really well towards the last 5 or so minutes. I was really proud of the performance in general. So all it did was show that we deserve to be here, I guess, and compete on every level.
Now, looking forward to this week. Match of the round against Southern, the Peninsula Derby. How excited are you and the boys for this one?
Look, I think every person in between Southern and Umina's football clubs would probably pencil or pen these dates in to try and get down to those games, whether they be at James Brown or at Umina Oval. So I think excitement is probably understated. Maybe not on a Monday, but certainly as we approach Sunday, I think the excitement levels will go up, and there's a lot of relationships between the two clubs. Individual people, players, ex-players, management. So I think that sort of respect is there, but also the trash talking, one-upmanship of those two clubs, our two clubs, is going to increase as Friday turns into Saturday into Sunday. So exciting! It's a big week of football. Any derby around the world, it's the most exciting on the calendar in some ways, apart from maybe finals. So can't wait.
Unsurprisingly, Southern have started the year with 2 wins. Don't think they've conceded a goal yet in first grade. What are you anticipating from that side come Sunday?
Look, they've been the benchmark of the competition for some time, Budgie Boy included over the last couple of years maybe. But, for a long, long time, Southern have demonstrated their ability to win games of football, comebacks, dominant wins. So, look, it's not surprising they've started with 2 wins. It's not surprising they've had dominant wins. It's not surprising they've got clean sheets. They're a very accomplished football side, very experienced, and top 2 every year almost for the last, I don't know how long, while we've been in Div 1. So, I mean, they've had my respect since I've moved to the coast in terms of what they've been able to achieve, certainly in the last few years. And defending premiers, first time they've won a grand final win in, 40 years or something like that. So, I think, it's not surprising at all where they are sitting at the table at the moment, and they're the benchmark, and we need to show that we can compete with the best teams in the competition, and they are at the moment one of the top 2 sides in the competition for sure.
Now, we took to socials to let people know you're coming on the pod. We do have a few fan questions. So the first one is, if you could sign any player from the league, who would it be?
Tell you what, I watched a fair few games last year. I do like a fair few players actually, and it's hard to nail down one. I think young Charlie I think I met him at the awards last year, and he's a very impressive young man. I think, age-wise, ability-wise, obviously player of the year, but also the fact he plays those attacking positions, I think would be exciting for us to nab. I think Toddy Barnave's at the back there. I think he'd be a fantastic guy to grab in as well. Experienced centre-back like him would be a hard man to knock back as well. I think if I had to choose, probably one of those two would be nice. But there's probably 100 out there that I'd like. Mind you, in saying that, I like my squad.
Yeah.
I like my squad a lot.
Happy with what you got.
I'm very happy with what I've got. I've got some really good young players and some fantastic experienced guys. I think the answer to that question for most other clubs would be my boys, Chris Payne and Hayden Tucker most weeks as well. So I'm really happy with my squad. But those 2 guys I've got deep respect for the way they go about their business for sure.
Next question. What annoys you the most as a coach? Is there one pet peeve that players might do? Is it?
Not learning from some things probably as a coach, not learning from a mistake, not learning from or making the same mistake a few times. Certainly blatant mistakes that cause a goal or cause major upheaval in the game, I think is probably the number one coaching thing. Most people would probably say something like that. I think, nothing gets my goat more than trying to work through a problem. You feel like you've done it, and then we make the same mistake again. 5 minutes later, an hour later, or 2 weeks later, it can upset me enough. So yeah, I think so.
Now, as we wrap up, we spoke about derbies all across the world. I think form typically goes out the window, no matter how good a side can be. I feel like it usually comes down to who wants it most on the weekend. Do you have a message to your boys ahead of Sunday?
Oh, I think soak in the atmosphere, soak up the week. You know, we've been waiting 6 or so years to get a rematch with Southern as a football club. I think, it's a big week. In saying that, you know, this game is worth 3 points, the same as Arimba's game, the same as the week after against Gosford. So I think, you know, soak up the atmosphere and give it everything we've got. And if we play our best football, I know we can compete with any side in the competition. And that's what I want to see, us competing on every level. And every single time there's a ball on that pitch, we compete for it. And I think if we put our best game on James Brown Oval next Sunday afternoon, I think we can shake up the competition, hopefully, as you say. Derby Day is a different sort of feel to every other week of the year. So competing on every level is my message to the boys. Enjoy the week, but compete on every level, every single moment of the game, for sure.
Well, obviously, congratulations to you for getting your minor back in the Prem. It's good to see him back there, obviously, with the history that they do have. Very deserved. All the best for this weekend and for the season ahead. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time.
Next up is Umina's WPL coach. Taking the reins of the E-Girls last season and enjoying his second year in charge. Welcome to the pod, Dave Brewer.
Thanks for having me.
Back for your second year in charge of the E-Girls. How's life as head coach treating you?
Oh, life's good. Yeah, they're a great bunch of girls we got at the club. They're really enjoyable to work with, really enjoyable to coach. Great group that want to get in, work hard when you ask them to. But we also have a lot of fun at training. There's sessions where we actually have to stop at times because they're laughing too much because something that's happened. But we have a lot of fun doing it. And yeah, they're a really, really enjoyable group to coach.
Now, you took over late last year, quite late into the preseason. Was it towards the end of Feb or?
Oh, it was actually around March. Yeah,
around March?
Yeah, they just had their first preseason cup game in the Association Cup. And then, I came in the week after that.
And what was the difficulties associated with that? Was it just trying to get the players to gel? Because I know there was quite a large turnover of players.
Initially, it was just getting the numbers.
Yep.
So when I came in, I think we only had about 8 registered at the time there that we're looking to use for the WPL. We'll rely on otherwise a lot of the younger ones. So it was really first getting the numbers that were there and then trying to sort of make up for what you'd missed out on, not having the pre-season workout, the hard fitness that you need going into a season. So we sort of started probably 6 weeks behind, and that probably showed a lot in our results last year. We're also had a few injuries at the start of last year. We'd hurt too. But, once we got going into the season, you saw our results picked up a lot more consistent. Yeah, so we probably just started, 6 weeks behind really.
Yeah, in last year's season preview, you sort of mentioned that you had 2 goals. One was to make the top 4, which you did do, and the other was to develop the young players. Do you feel like you achieved that other goal?
I think we did, yeah. So we've got 4 of the under-18s from last year in the squad this year, and 3 of them could still be in the 18s if we had one this year. So they've definitely come on a fair bit. There's a lot more for them to work on. Last year they still did train with a lot with our 18s. So I think this year with them training week in, week out with the WPL girls is going to bring them along even quicker. And also on top of that, we also had some of the 16s that have already helped us out this year and been involved. So I got a bit of a taste of what it is. Last year, we were sort of forced into them getting a lot of game time. So I look back at the end of the year, the first 8 games was only one game I had a full 11 WPL players. Right. So therefore, the younger girls got a good run. They got a good taste of what it is to play at that speed of game and also the physicality. It's a big jump we saw coming from the 18s up into the especially WPL.
Yeah.
So it's something our clubs looked at this year, try to get a top women's all-age team. So we have that stepping stone to come through, which we're trying to get. We've got this year already started. A few more numbers would be good, but again, it's giving these younger girls. We had a few of our 16s help out the last 2 weeks in that team. So again, they're getting a good shot, a good run against those women there to see what it is to play at that pace and physicality. So I think this year we'll see even more of them come on from that.
Yeah, you might. I mean, they've known for quite a good women's program throughout their club, so that's good to see. Obviously, them being able to call up the players like that.
Yeah, that's it. That's
rely on them.
something that I think we're big on.
Yeah.
And me particularly, I'm not a coach that goes out looking for players.
Mm-hmm.
Same as when I was doing our men's a few years ago. People asked me, "You're going to get recruiting anyone?" I said, "No, you want to play for our club or you don't."
Yeah.
And we've brought through a lot of good players. We do have a lot of even ones at the Mariners at the moment in that 16s, the 18s range. I think we've got about 4 or 5 from our old that would probably be in our 16s this year at the Mariners. So again, hopefully in the next few years, if for something doesn't happen or they're finding that a bit more difficult, we'll get some of those players back. But yeah, we've always trying to push and work with our younger players to bring them through, and we do certain other things as well, like an academy. I started a lead academy we started running a few years ago. So we are training them at a higher level, at that higher speed, because for me, all the years I played, it was one of the things whenever a reserve grade player came into first grade, you said, half time, how does it feel? How do you find that? And they always say, oh, it was just so quick.
Yeah.
So it's just getting them all playing at that
Getting
quicker
used to
pace
that.
and getting used to it. Yeah.
And as for 2026, what are the goals you have for the squad this year?
They're probably similar to last year.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously want to make top 4 again. I'd love to go a bit further than we did last year. So if we could finish something like 3rd would be brilliant. And also then coming into the finals last year, look, the finals went to script pretty much exactly as you expect it to. We got knocked out that first week. The team was 3rd, second week.
Yep.
But it's one of the things, if you can get in those semis, anything can happen. It's one game at a time there. You go out there, you play really well like you can.
That's it.
Opposition's a bit off. Anything can happen. So for us, semi-finals is a must for us this year. I think our squad's stronger than it was last year as well. That's probably minimum for us. And then again, just keeping to develop the players, keep working with those ones and give these younger players a chance when they can to have a little of a run with them, train with them and get them ready for the next few years to come.
Now you started the year round 1 with a good victory away from home against the Entrants. Talk us through that victory and what went so well for your side.
It probably wasn't a good victory, but the scoreline said it was.
Yeah.
Look, we were up 3-0 after 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the girls ran out of legs very quickly. It was very evident that physically, fitness-wise, they were struggling with it. The best thing about that game probably is we took our chances. When the chances came, we did take them. And then they battled on for the rest of the game. And I could see a lot of them out there were struggling. They were really having to push to keep going. But that's one of the things of the group I've got there, that they don't give up. They'll just keep going and keep working and working until they literally need to be carried off the field. And some of them had to, unfortunately. We got the win. It wasn't pretty, but they're the games that you need to win when you are struggling. If you want to be competitive in this comp, you got to get away with wins like that. So it was good. We took our chances, made the most of it, and did walk away with the points.
Kate Stiles got the year, started the year with 2 goals. As far as I've known the WPL competition, she's been one of the best goal scorers throughout the competition throughout the years. What's it like having her in the attack or in the squad as a whole?
Yeah, look, it's in the squad. Yeah, the work she does. Obviously, she's our captain of our team too, so she's a great leader for our team. She does a lot of stuff, helping these girls along, helping push them, her effort at training and that sort of thing as well. And the talk she does to the players has a lot of it. But yeah, having her up front as an attacking weapon, I think from what I've heard, she's the one that's scored the most goals in WPL since it's been around. And week in, week out, she keeps showing how she can do that. The best thing for me for that game was she did take her chances. She only got a couple in that game, but she finished them both. And I think she would even admit I'm not having a go at her whatsoever, but last year she probably didn't take as many as she wanted to. She missed certain games, just wasn't happening for her. So for her to come out week 1 and finish those 2 chances, and also for her, she was coming back from injury. She got injured in that second preseason cup game. And so she hadn't been at much training, first game since then. So she said to me afterwards openly that she struggled physically. Her legs felt like jelly a lot of the time, but she took her chances when it was there, and that's what you want. A good striker does that. If they get the chance, they finish it.
Right.
So as a coach, hey, if you've got a striker there that's going to score 2 goals for you every week, you're going to be pretty happy most weeks.
Happy days, yeah, definitely. And then following that, round 2, you Peninsula Derby went down 3-2 to Southern. What sort of went wrong in that game, reflecting on that?
Yeah, it was a very frustrating game for us. We came out the first half, and for me, we're fairly dominant. We gave away a penalty in that for a handball. to go down 1-0, but then we fought back and went back up 2-1, and we dominated with possession. The girls knocked the ball around really well, played some really good football to watch. So it was really good. We sort of walked in at half time, and I think a lot of them probably didn't feel that we're under too much danger because of how well we're playing and how well we're knocking around and keeping possession continually. And whether that sort of slowed us down a bit, we had to make a couple of subs. We had a couple of girls come off injured, one that's sort of carrying an injury continually and sort of goes until she can't anymore. And I probably didn't notice it too much during the game, but that probably was the turning point when that happened, that we just lost that little bit through the midfield there, and we weren't winning as many loose balls. We weren't winning the first and second ball, and they started to just build that little bit of pressure on us. They played very direct, knocking a lot of long balls up front, and when you got a player up front like Diaz up there that can score goals from anywhere, you give teams enough chances to put the ball in your half and you're attacking in that attacking area, the danger zone, eventually going to concede goals. So as I said, the first game we only played probably 25 minutes and we struggled physically. We probably upped that to maybe 50, 55 minutes and then we sort of died off a bit. So bit to work on there with us. But as I said, yeah, very frustrating for a game that I feel we should have won and we're playing, especially the first half, good enough to do. You walk away a bit annoyed at the end of those ones.
And reflecting on those two opening games, what are the most positives coming out of your squad?
I think the big positive is the improvement we got from round one to round two.
Yeah.
As I said, round one, I didn't feel we played that good. We didn't play the way that we want to. But on the weekend, the way we knocked the ball around, especially in that first half, is the way we want to play. There was good movement, good talk. We're working. The things that we work on at training, they were showing. So the best thing was that improvement of the game, how we played. We just need to keep that going for longer periods. So if we can keep that going and keep working on that, we've got a few new players to the team, so we're still working on those combinations and that sort of thing. And with first game, even we changed our formation around a bit in that first game, so it was good to see them react and be able to change to that. The players that we got are very versatile, which is great. They can play multiple positions, so we can move it around as we need. And as I said, once we made a few subs, might have hurt us a bit on the weekend. But yeah, the positive was how well they reacted from first game to how we did that second one and the big improvement they made with it. So if we can keep going like that week in, week out, it'll be a pretty good year.
And you mentioned earlier that you used to coach the men's first grade team. How long have you been involved at Umina?
I've been at Umina since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I started playing there in the under sixes and I played through to the under 10s. Then I went on to come to the Central Coast Coasties, as it was back then. And I started playing there in the under 12s. It was an age change at the time when that happened. So the year that you're born went from, I think it was the end of July to a calendar year. Okay. So I went straight from the 10s to the 12s and came to the Coasties and started playing here, where I played, I think it was about 11 seasons. So I played right through to first grade here. And then went back to Umina to then play another 10 seasons there with first grade. So I think it was about 04 I went back there. Went back a little bit in between. I did get a season in 01 back there with the 18s and reserve grade when we were playing a summer comp with the Coasties, which wasn't too fun when you had to go out to Penrith in the middle of summer.
Yeah, could imagine.
So yeah, I've been involved with the club since I was a kid myself.
And when did your coaching journey start? Did you always think as a player you'd want to transition into coaching, or did it sort of come about?
Just sort of probably came about. My son started playing, so I started coaching him there in the under fives. It was something when I played, one of the things that I found to be a good part of my game was I could read the game well, so I did see what was happening out in the field, which probably helps you when you're coming into being a coach. But yeah, it just sort of happened. I started coaching my son in the fives there, and coached him through till about the nines, and that's when Umina were looking for a new coach for the men's first grade. I was involved with the committee at the time as well. I'd started in a junior director role at the club there, working with our juniors, trying to help bring our juniors along. So obviously our club was very successful for a very long time, right through, and then we did drop out of Premier League. I think it was at the end of 2016 or around then. And I think our club had just sort of fallen away and not kept up with the times a bit. So we changed the way the club was set up there and the committee there to put a bit more focus on the juniors. So I came in there and did a lot of work with our juniors, help with Lee Forward that was there to start an academy up at our club. So I was doing a lot of coaching there with them, with the different kids that were coming through, with the whole thing of trying to bring through a lot of good players in the future. And yeah, as I said, the club was looking for a coach, and I'd said, look, I'm happy to help out there. I assist if you want to put this other coach in or something. And then he came back to me a couple of days later, the president at the time, and said, well, no, actually, can you coach the team? So I took that on. I think it was a COVID year, the first year, so I only got half a season in. And then unfortunately, at the end of that season, it was just a bit too much with my family, younger kids, and that. So it was a bit too much strain. So I just had to step away for that for a couple of years. But lucky again that the club needed a female coach at the start of last year, and I said I'd do it as an interim thing, and I'm still here now.
Yeah. And as someone who's so connected to the club and obviously as a past player, how important is it that Umina are back in Prems or not in the men's and to have 2 Premier League teams?
Oh, I think it's very important. We're obviously a big club, and as I said, our club was, from what I got told, we were the last club to ever get get relegated from the Premier League. So it was a big thing. And as I said, when I was playing there, our club, it was year in, year out. We were always, if not in the semis, we were battling for it. I think there was only one season I played where the game didn't mean anything at the end of the year, where we couldn't make semis. Every other year, there was always a chance of making it. So for our club to be as successful as what it was for so long, it was very important to get them back to that level. That's where we believe we should be. We're a big club as well. So being a bigger club, I think it makes it a lot easier with the children coming through that you can work on those specific age, the age groups there. You can put the similar quality players together, which gets more out of every single kid. So it does make it easier for us. But yeah, it was important to get back there to go, well, we're one of the big clubs. We're a very successful club, and we need to show that. And I said we've done a lot of work with juniors coming through and that sort of thing to help do that. And I think the quality we got there at the moment in the men's and the ones that I know that are coming through as well, I expect them not to go anywhere for a long time now. Last year was a very successful year for our club, not just with our men being successful, but also our junior program as well. As I said, I've been heavily involved with our juniors for the last few years, for probably about 7 or 8 years now. And for last year to have our 12As, 13As, 14As and 16As all in our grand finals. We didn't have an under-15 A team last year because we actually pushed them up to the 16s. So to have them all in grand finals shows what's coming through. And we just need to keep that quality of players coming through. And our men's program will keep lifting, as will our women's one.
Now, you're back on the road again in round 3, match of the round against Kanwal. What are you expecting from this contest?
Oh, it's always a hard game, especially when you go up to Kanwal. They're always a physical team that you play with. I haven't seen too much about them this year or anything like that, so I'm expecting a tough challenge like we did all last year. I know they got some good quality players there that if you, again, like on the weekend, if we're not switched on, will punish us. So we really do need to make sure that we're switched on for the whole game. It'd be great if we could play a full 90 minutes and actually take the battle to them for the whole game. That's, as I said, we want to have a successful year. So the way I see it, we need to win games like this where we go into a one like that. It's a hard game, but we need to get those wins. You need to get 3 points. Yeah.
Now, last year you had 1 draw against them and then 2 wins. You've played them 3 times throughout the winter season. Is there anything that sort of sticks out when you reflect on that Kanwal outfit from last year?
Not too much. I think that probably reflects our season last year. I think with the draw we had was at the start of last year, where we were sort of struggling to gel a lot and we were a bit behind. As I said, I think the squad we've got this year is even stronger than last year, and I don't know too much about Kanwal's what they've got, but with the squad we've got this year, I expect us to go in and be able to take a victory from that, because the quality we got this year is a lot better than what we had last year. And unless we get up there and we find they've got a much stronger squad as well, it could be a bit bigger challenge. But as I said, it's always going to be a hard game there. I know they always take the battle to us. We may have got 2 victories last year, but it wasn't by much each time, I don't think. So if we're not on, I think any team in this competition, if you're not on, will take points off you.
And we took to social media to let people know you're coming on. If there was anyone you could sign from the league to sign for your team, who would it be?
I think it'd have to be Jess Dominello.
Yep.
She's shown year in, year out how quality she is. She's a fantastic player from what we've seen and from my interactions and what I've seen her with games. She also seems like a fantastic person to be around. Never had any issues with her whatsoever in games or anything like that. But as I said, she's shown every year the amount of goals she scores. She's one that if you give half a yard of space to, she's going to score a goal. And that can be from 30 yards out. It doesn't matter. So to have someone like that, as we already spoke about, I've got someone like Kate up there that already scores a lot of goals. If you had another attacking weapon like that, it'd be very difficult for most teams to try to mark anyone out of the game when you got that.
Who is the most underrated player in your side, do you think?
I think probably in our team, it's probably Sarah Jones. She plays at the back for us. She's only a small girl herself, but she's very dominant. Look, it might be I was a defender myself, and so I appreciate a lot more what they do there. But she's someone, and she showed on the weekend against Emily Diaz that she can battle and she can beat any player she plays against. So if she puts a mind to it, she can win the ball against anyone. She can hold them up. She gets to a lot of balls before the attackers do. Wins, especially last year. She actually got our Player of the Year last year because the amount of ball she wins and how dominant she is there at the back. So, look, your fullbacks don't always get a lot of credit for what they do, and so I think she's one that people probably don't appreciate as much as what she does out in the field. And she's also turning into a really good leader for our team as well. So,
and lastly, you mentioned you do have a lot of young players in your squad. Is there one youngster that sticks out to one people should be looking out for this year?
Yeah, the one that's coming this year is Raina. So she was in our 18s last year, and from the very first session I went to last year, we were training with the 18s and we had them there working with us. And I actually turned around to the coach that was coaching the 18s and looked at him and I said, I might be taking her.
Can I have her?
Yeah. She's a fantastic player. Unfortunately for me, she probably doesn't have the confidence in herself that others do. But that's coming. The first few games, she's been really good. She's a really skillful player, a really smart player. Even when she played last year, she started a few games for us last year, even though she was in the 18s. And the movement she makes, she's making runs that some senior players don't make. So her movement off the ball is fantastic. So I think she's one over the next few years is really going to come into her own and really step up to be a big-time player for us.
And as we wrap up here, just get some score predictions for you for the round ahead for WPL if we can. Southern hosting the entrance. How do you see that playing out?
Well, two teams we've already played. I think that'll be a fairly close one. I'd probably lean towards Southern, having Diaz up front there. As I said, if they give her any sort of space, she's going to punish you. So she could easily put a couple away against them. So I'd say a fairly close one, but yeah, it could be like a 2-1 there to Southern.
Terrigal against East Gosford at Duffy's Oval.
Yeah, look, East Gosford look like they're fairly strong again this year. I know they did lose a few players from last year, but we had them in the pre-season cup and they seemed just as strong. I think they picked up a few players. So with what East Gosford's done so far, I'd think probably maybe 3-0 goal, 3-0 there for them.
And we've got a top of the table clash, Killarney, Kincumber.
Killarney this year with the quality they had last year going undefeated, I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it again this year.
Yep.
So the players they've picked up, you just keep seeing more and more, and I'm looking at it and thinking you've got two teams there of WPL quality players. So yeah, at this stage, I don't see Killarney losing any games this year the way they are. I'd love to say that we would be able to beat them. At this stage, I'll be happy to get a draw against them because, I think the quality they've got this year is top quality. So I think that'll be another victory there for Killarney by a few there.
And lastly, match of the round, Kanwal and Umina.
Fairly confident that hopefully it'll be us there getting it. Yeah, as I said, it's a game that we need to win. And we've got the quality players there to be able to do it. We just need to put together a whole game. So if we can go out there with the right attitude and right effort, which we've been working on, I'd hope we could walk away with a 3-goal win from that.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and all the best for the season ahead and for this weekend.
All right, thank you.
We've got another great round of Premier League football for round 3 of the 2026 season. On Anzac Day this Saturday, 6 o'clock kickoff, Wyoming will host Ourimbah at Allen Davidson Oval, two teams searching for their first victory of the season. Also on Saturday night at 7 p.m, Berkeley Vale will host Budgewoi, two teams who have started the year unbeaten with 2 wins from 2 games. Sunday, we have Terrigal looking to bounce back when they battle at home against Gosford. Kanwal and Killarney are set to square off at Wadauba. And the match of the round, a peninsula derby between Southern and Umina at James Brown Oval. All games on Sunday are at 2:45. Get down to your local ground and catch all the action. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Coast Football Weekly. As always, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a rating and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll catch you next week for another episode.